afternoon. Thank you for being here in this post-lunch session. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is a conversation, but every conversation also needs a moderator. So I shall just start the ball rolling by asking Dr. Borah. And as you know, both my co-panelists are extremely well-known Assamese writers who have been translated widely. And they are at the peak of their creativity, I would say. So Dr. Borah is also a medical doctor and a very busy, and he's the vice chancellor of a well-known university. So the first thing, but he writes a lot on history. So the first thing that I hope you will speak on is how your interest in history and also through that, your journey as a writer till today.
So it's a tall order Mitra has asked me to speak about. You see, somehow, when I am asked to speak about my own writings, I become somehow very sad at the thought, because I look at myself mainly as a creative writer. Though I have written a significant body of non-fiction, but it is the fiction which gives me the greatest pleasure, and also it gives me satisfaction of creation, because that is the fiction, that is the story that I create. But that exactly is the point why I am sad, because what I create is absolutely imaginary. I bring you all to an imaginary world which may or may not have any touch with the reality. And I do it in my own way. So, that is what, when I think about it, I find that it gives me a sadness also, that whether I am duping my readers with imagination without which also they could have led a beautiful life. But all that said and done, I would today, as Mitra directed, both of them are my contemporaries and much more better writer than I am. And I would try to explain my rootedness in history. You see, the journey of Assam through the ages has been an astounding journey. In the 1826, when the Britishers came, we were only several lakh of people. I don't think true Assamese were more than 10 lakhs at that time. But from that point, fighting every inch for our language, identity, for our we had to be very rooted to the land from which we have grown up. And both my co-writers are also equally rooted. That is the greatness of their writings. And this rootedness has brought me to history. I wanted to find out through which my people have passed through. So I will just focus on one of my recent novels, and that will give you a fair idea of the stuff of things that I write, that I will read out to you. The novel, name of the novel is Inner Landscapes. And name is in English, but the writing is in Assamese. The images stored within our minds, those are the real treasures of our memory and existence. The external images are ever changing. Clouds jostle in the sky. The picture of clouds changes every moment. Air changes, water changes, nature changes with the season. People, relations change as per the situation. There is constant change all around. Nothing remains the same. Amongst these ever changing images of the external world, we preserve certain images in the secret recesses of our memory. Maybe those do not change, only their color, vivacity, and spread change with waxing and waning of our memories. They afford us an anchor in the sea of uncertainty of our life. This novel is set on a special time of Assam, the period of Burmese invasion. I have tried to weave two stories in a single plate. On one hand, a family from Satra, that is the Assamese Vaishnav monastery, from the bank of Kolong River, that has fled due to the Burmese invasion, was returning home after the Treaty of Yandabu to find out the Satra they have left. What did they find in the devastated and desolate Assam? On the other hand, 5 special persons were excitedly debating and discussing about the history of Burmese invasion. That is the second plate. Through the mixture of story and discussions, it is sought to illuminate an age and a time, and throw in many an undiscussed narrative of human existence. See, usually what happens under the meta-narrative of history, Burmese invasion, that's a meta-narrative, big narrative. When Assam, an independent entity till 1823, became a colony of the Burmese first. And then, after the Anglo-Burmese wars, it went as a spoil of war to the Britishers. Britishers never conquered Assam. Neither did the Mughals ever conquer Assam. The king of Jaipur, Mansingh, went all the way with the Mughal army, but they could not conquer Assam. None could. In this country, we have been, by a stroke of history, by a foreign treaty done in a foreign land, went from one foreign power to another power without even a small hello to the Assamese people. And we went under British colonialism. And what happened after that I dealt in my next novel. If time permits, I'll tell, or otherwise, I'll just mention the name. That name is Pilgrimage of Donkeys. Oops. That name is also in English, but the novel is totally in Assamese, and it shows what donkeys the Britishers had been and what donkeys the Assamese had been also. In the playing out of the historical forces, what happens to the common people and the others. So my history, love of history and love of fiction are very interrelated and strongly bonded. And this is what I would like to say to your question. But it will not do for me to speak alone. I have such great writers with me. Arupa to my right, she's such a strong writer, and she had been on the forefront of bringing the Assamese subaltern stratum of people to the forefront of literature, giving voice to the voiceless, giving faces to the unrecognized people, and also very strongly writing about women. So I would like to ask her, as my co-panelist, as to what led into into these fields and what are her feelings and experiences. I think, Mitra, that way we go around.
Yes, I guess so. This is a moderate, less panel, so yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Greetings from Assam, the land of tea, orchids, and the mighty river Brahmaputra, and lovely people. Okay. You know, Dhruba and Mitra, they are my good friends. So don't believe them. I am not that writer of that stature. I am a mere storyteller. I write what is she. So today, while narrating the journey of my writing career, I will tell you only story. So remember, I am a mere storyteller. I like to tell the stories of people. Okay, so if I want to narrate the beginning of my journey as a writer, I have to go back to my childhood days. So, you know, Assam is known for sprawling and big paddy fields. So, at that time, I think I was a student of class 1. So, during the midnight, my family, my parents, my grandmother, we returned after attending a festival. And at that it is 12 o'clock midnight. And our old, at that time, we have that Landmaster car, that great gas guzzler. So our car, it was crossing both the sides, dark fields. And suddenly, I can see flames, some flame. And instantly, the flames, they divided into some parts, that is willow that whips. And it was fascinating. At the time, I was a student of class 1, and I like to watch that mysterious fire. My grandmother scolded me. No, don't look at it. This is the fire of the ghost. The ghost will go with you. I didn't listen to them. I looked at the fascinating flames. And when I go home, I couldn't forget the flames. The flames began to dance in front of me. I thought grandmother was right, that the ghost in the fire, it was inside me. And suddenly, I took a piece of paper and began to write. And then the fire went out from my eyes. That is the first expression of my feelings. So fire is still burning in me. It is still burning in me. In that form or this form, the fire comes and it is still burning in me. And that is the beginning of my journey as a writer. Then, in the children corner, I wrote. In the college life also, that is 70s, it was the age of the rebellion, little magazines, dramas, and it's a vibrant decade. And I wrote many short stories at that time, and it was a complete leftist leaning. And at that period, I have learned how to analyze socio-economic events. The basic principles of 70s are still guiding principles of mine. Then then I came to the university in Guwahati, and suddenly there was black cloud in the sky. Assam movement was beginning. So, you know, Assam movement So it was, I think you may differ, it's a negative movement. It devastated the social fabric of Assam, and in the wake of Assam movement, terrorism comes to our state. Then, after that, university days, I went to serve in a college. Some may call it a foolishness or idealism. So I selected a small town to begin my service life as a lecturer in English. And there I have seen a completely different reality. So my childhood days I spent at Golaghat, it is the Upper Assam, and it was a happy childhood. No worries, nothing. Simply enjoyment, joy, and mirth. But there, in my college life, I have seen what is life. And I think terrorism is an assault on humanity. And I have seen the assault with my own eyes. The principal of my college, he was shot dead in front of our college gate. We have to buy peace. And our common room was attacked. We had to face grenade attacks. And then my writings, it took a different color and different dimension. As Borah mentioned that I write about the subaltern people. So forget about the bombastic word subaltern. Just I want to say that there was 1,000 hours band. Shops were closed. Everything was closed. So we the salaried people, we have money. So we have a stock in my granary. My freeze was full. But what about that wage earners, the women, who used to sell some vegetables or that? They were at loss. They did 1,000 hours band. What they will do? How will they feed their children? What about their heart? What about their food? Then I begin to write about them. And then you may call it subaltern, you may call it in some other ways, but I begin to write about them. My question is that the women, they suffered a lot. Particularly, so it is natural. When there is any turmoil or calamity, it is the women and children, they suffer. And I have seen with my own eyes how these poor women, they suffered. So there was my novel, Felani. It was published by Juban. Felani means to throw away. Felani, Falayadia, to throw away. So these women, they were thrown out of the mainland society to the fringes. And how did they live in the fringe of the society? That was the theme of my novel, Felani. So I want to tell you, a storyteller again, I want to tell you the story of a woman. She used to sell the vegetables. One day, she came to me. And she was a very grand lady, tall, dark lady with a big bindi, and she was very happy with whatever she has. One day she came to me, and her forehead was smeared with vermilion, and suddenly she opened her private parts to me and told me, you see, Goddess Kali has entered into me. That actually she escaped to that image of Kali. In this way, I have seen life and I wrote about them. And you know, while I wrote about them, I never forget the strength and resilience in them. They are like the reeds. You cannot destroy them. The seeds will fly, seeds will swim, and wherever they can find some soil, they begin to germinate. So this is the journey of the journey of me as myself as a writer, and I have seen life, and I write what I see. Okay. I want to ask you one question, Mitra. She is a close friend of mine. We are friends for long 40 years. We grow all together. She has translated my stories. And I want to ask you, Mitra, that you are an Assamese. Yeah? Your mother language is Assamese. But you prefer to write in English. As far as I remember, I think I am correct that you are the first Assamese writer to write in English, isn't it? Yes, sir.
So-
And what I know your journey, want to know your journey as a Assamese writer writing in English. And to top it all, the first writer who writes in English. So I want to know your journey.
Thank you. Yes, it's lovely being here, of course, as I said. And thank you, my colleagues who are Mount Everests in their fields. I feel humbled to be here. But yes, see, being the first is, there were people writing in English much before me, but I was the first to be published by Penguin, Zuban, things like that. I think I'm fortunate because at that time Penguin came.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fortunate because at that time there was an opening up of the economy which brought in publishers, worldwide publishers, and so that we could be, read in English all over and from English translated into other languages, including Assamese, including Manipuri, including Bangla, and so many things. This is the reach of the English language. But I want to say that nothing is ever easy. You think that, okay, she writes in English, she has it easy. But my Assamese language, my mother tongue is, of course, Assamese. And we are all multiple language users. I write in English, but I speak in Assamese. I can speak wherever, whatever. And we do it subconsciously, unconsciously, whatever. But when I began to write, English was the option for me. It was in English that I wrote. But also, I have been writing consistently of Assam, of the Northeast. My settings are, and the concerns of the characters are of Assam, very much so. So, because I was, doing this in Assam at a very troubled time during the agitation, and my first, I was writing for children, and that came out with CBT, which is an Indian concern, but a very good concern, Children's Book Trust. But
You
my
wrote The
first-
Collector's Wife at that time.
I wrote it, I set it during the agitation. Okay, I set it during the agitation and it was written in English, but it was very much about Assam. And you have said about the characters in yours, the characters. I would like to say that at that time, no matter where we were badly affected. The whole of Assam was affected. We were affected. You were in Tongla. I was in Zoo Narangi Road, Guwahati, which is kind of, one of the better places. It's the posh, and we are supposed to be secure there. But as you know, my house, just opposite my house, there lived a police officer. He was shot dead. He went with his family to celebrate their anniversary in a restaurant, and a hand with a gun came and shot him in the open in front of him. Nitya Doctor. He was a poet. He was a lyricist. And he used to come across to our house and we would talk, and I actually sang his songs. So it was a big shock. It was terrible. And and somehow, when these things happen, they come into your writings in some way or the other. So this killing came into my writing, obviously. Then there was this Gandhian person who was killed in broad daylight in Ujan Bazaar when he was bringing back the shopping for a fish. And there was no way I could not write about it, even though Collector's Wife is fiction. So writing in English has not been easy, as I said, because at that time, and Assamese literature is a very strong literature. And stalwarts have been writing, and they're continuing to write about this, about Assam. I was, and at that time, when there was a very strong feeling of patriotism, people said, why are you, it was seen as a betrayal. Why are you not writing in Assamese? Why are you writing in English? And I said, because this is my language of writing. And my language, my mother tongue, my language of speaking is Assamese. And I see no, it's these two things are not warring with each other. They are part of the same mindset. So now, of course, now that another generation has come in, this is not asked so much anymore. And then I would like to say that and I would like to ask you also little later, Dr. Borah, I also do translations, which I enjoy doing. I have translated both their works. So even though we are, even in spite, or not in spite, in addition to being friends, I have translated both their works. So my translation work is, of course, something I really enjoy doing because the stories are so excellent, the Assamese stories, but also because, in a way, it validates my existence as an Assamese. I write in English, but I translate from Assamese into English. So that is a kind of a validation. And my stories are rooted in Assam, and my stories are full of the landscapes of Assam. My stories are full of the characters that you find in Assam, and of course the river is everywhere. This was pointed out to me, the Brahmaputra is everywhere, but then that is how it is. The Brahmaputra is everywhere, even physically, in Assam. So let us now move on to our second round, maybe. Yeah? And I would like to, Dr. Borah is a writer who translates his own work, which is a very unusual thing. And I have always been asking him that, do you feel tempted to change the work as you translate?
That temptation is always there. When you look at your own writings later on, you always feel that I could have done better here. I could have written this like this. But even though I am the author of the original text, I still find it difficult to move too much away from the main text that I have written. At the most, I try to bring one or two additional nuances to it, one or two additional informations to it. But a writer translating, you see, writer translates all right. But the problem comes when a writer like me, unlike them, I am very weak in English syntax and all these things, English verbs and everything with the English language. So my editor has a hell of a time. And I always get scolded by my editor. What have you written? Okay, how can you say it like this? Why not say it like this? So this is an unending process, and I always meekly submit to my editor because I know my inadequacies. But in Assamese, I am not that lenient. I hardly ever allow anybody to change even one single word. Because I'm too much confident there that whatever I have written it in a very chosen way. So what our audience might be hearing is something about what is happening in the recent times in the Assamese literature. And at this point of time, when this ancient language has been recognized as one of the classical languages of India, it is no mean recognition. At this point of time, we are also relooking at ourselves. are we up to the mark to take forward this particular achievement to the future? I don't know how Arupa feels. I think she will also want to add a few words to this particular responsibility, which I always feel inside me. Arupa?
Yes, it is true. The history of Assamese literature is a very rich one. We have a very proud heritage and the vibrant tradition. And our language, Assamese language, it's a very sweet language. It is not harsh like English. So let me recite a nursery rhyme. So, in order to feel the softness of Assamese language, it's a nursery rhyme, okay? Please listen, it is in alliteration. So, please try to notice the softness, the musical note of Assamese language. Okay, this is the nursery rhyme. Bogakoi bogoli, boholai bohise, boluka bioli bela, bokul bagorise bobosa bonote, butoli bilangoi bola. Is it not soft? Yeah. It is rhythmic. Yeah, full of music. So, we the Assamese people, we inherited a vibrant tradition of folk music. The Jhumurs from the tea garden walkers, the Bihu songs, and there are a lot. The color of Assamese folk songs is multidimensional and full of lovely colors. So we own it, we inherit it. So Dhruba is right. We have the great responsibility of carrying that palanquin of great heritage and the rich tradition. Yes, we must be more careful and we must work hard to carry it because history has bestowed that responsibility on our soldiers. I don't know my frail soldiers will be able to carry it or not. Still, I will try it. I love my Assamese literature. I love the folklores, the folk music of Assam. It is splendid. It is wonderful.
We have 5 minutes left. So, do we ask questions? I mean, audience questions? Yeah, of course.
Sorry if I was very loud at the beginning, but Joya Hom. And I would, for the benefit of everyone, I'll ask the question in Assamese and I'll translate it after that. Because like them, I'm also very proud of my language. And I'm very proud of, there's a big, you all should be, a big hand for the people who are on stage. I know what they're doing for Assam and that means a lot. A lot to people like us who stay out. Ohomia bhasha aru Ohomia sanskriti khub rich hoy.
Definitely, yeah.
Kintu আপোনালোকে ভাবে নেকি যে history has not been kind to us for the simple reason, I'm translating this, Assamese language and Assamese culture is very rich, but has history not been kind to us in the sense that everything that Borah sir spoke of are never mentioned in our history texts. What we study in our traditional classical history of India, somehow like the small little frail connection of Northeast that is there, that's little pass. Northeast is again cut off from that entire thing. The history is cut off. So how will the larger nation know about this rich culture, about books like Deolankhai, about books that like what Mitra ma'am has written, beyond the English also, of course, about all the things that she has translated? How will they know if the traditional historical texts don't carry the Assamese history in the right manner? Do you think it's due time now?
It is really due time. We have a very inherent pride in Assam that we are a very historical people because we have a tradition of writing Burunjis or history. We have a tradition of writing Vaishnava histories in Guru Sarita Kathas. So, despite that, in the modern times, historiography, we have totally failed to write modern history of the Assamese people, Assamese literature, and bringing it out to the attention of the greater nation. There's a failure on our part, on our writers' part, of bringing this out, on our academicians' part, of finding newer and newer things. But things are slowly and surely changing, and I hope your generation will be able to take it forward to its completion.
May I add this? I am actually hopeful because from over the decades that I have lived, I have seen when I come out of Assam, and you must have seen, both of you, Assamese is recognized. Oh, you're from Assam, you're wearing mekhela sador. That is recognized. But I remember the time when it was not. I remember the time when our cuisine was not recognized. I remember the time when Bhupen Hazarika's songs were not, what is he talking about? What is he singing about? So I think it is up to all of us, and you all. It is all of us to take the richness and diversity of and let's not forget, Assam has a very diverse ethnic identity as well. So let's not forget that, and let's take it forward. It is moving forward. Let's speed it up a little bit, right?
I want to add a few words to your question. So, I want to tell about your particular period, that the history of struggle for independence. So, Assam played, particularly Assamese women, played a significant role in the history of that struggle for independence. But the fat books on in struggle for independence, not a single, you can find a single word. So we the writers, we are mere writers. What can we do? So I wrote a recent novel that is Josonar Jitas, that means the Moonlight Saga. I wrote about a tea garden walker who was a kept of a sahib during the colonial period, who sacrificed her life for the sake of independence. She was a martyr of the struggle for independence. I wrote that novel. So when I wrote that novel, so I got enough materials about the white sahibs. I can talk about hours about them, but not a single word about Durgi, the tea garden laborer who sacrificed her life to bring independence for us. So this is the responsibility of the writers that I think I have carried. Though frail shoulders, I have carried.
I think there's another question from there.
I am really happy to hear about the memories you have of the pre-student agitation of Assam. I am an IAS officer who was a sub-divisional magistrate at the time when this agitation broke out. And I think of it as a period of loss of innocence of Assam. Because, I think of that period, particularly the things leading up to the massacres and the various inter-community problems. That was a loss of Assam. I do not know, I have been out of Assam now for 15, 20 years, but I do not know what is the thinking. And I sorry to say this, but I believe that there was a bit of a hiding of the facts during that agitation, which caused all these problems. Anyway,
you are very right in a way that definitely the period of Assam agitation and the killings of Alpha and the terrorists, that was the period when I say the Assamese people have lost its innocence also. They're no longer, in the modern times, they are no longer afraid to kill. That is a very bad thing to have happened to our society, and it has pained me and all our writer community to a great extent, and that anguish can be seen in Mitra's writing, in Arupa's writing, everywhere.
So the last question from there, the clock is ticking relentlessly.
Hello, panel. I had I had a question. So there's no doubt that you all are very fearless writers, having been and written in a time when Assam faced such a struggle. But was there any fear on the part of your family is also suffering because of you? And at the same time, did it ever happen that you felt hopeless given the situation that there was? And did you feel like not writing anymore?
Can I
Did it
answer?
happen?
See, we were all affected. All of us were affected by what was happening, no matter how secure we felt. So our families, yes, they were affected. My family, the family of business people were really badly affected. And there was no way we could speak out against it. Our voices were silenced in many ways because it was deemed to be anti-national, to be saying that no, I mean, what will happen to the people whose salaries have to be paid, whose work has to be done, and yet it was seen, I keep thinking of this, that it was deemed to be anti-national to be part of a productive factory, for instance. So yes, there was suffering everywhere. It doesn't matter which side you were on. And the lines were very blurred, that this is gray, this is black, this is white. It was very blurred. And it was a very confusing time, and I certainly hope it never comes back again. We have 37 seconds. One more question.
Ma'am, it's not a question, it's just a statement I am making. I was in Assam, I'm from Rajasthan. I went to Assam somewhere in the beginning of 80s when the ASU agitation was just subsiding. And after that was the Ulfa, there was Boro agitation, there was Rupuz Rajbanshi agitation. But what I want to say is that from the time when I initially went to Assam, as you said rightly, Assam was nowhere recognized in the main heartland. But in last 30 years, when I was there, I mean, people in the mainland, they came to know, and they really, like Assamese came to us, and there was intercaste marriage and all. So I feel that Assamese, as on today, they have mingled in the main streamline, and they are very well recognized and respected.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
true. Not just of writings, but also, cinema and journalism and so many other things. So I am also hopeful. I think we are done. Our time is over. We have overrun our time. You've been a lovely audience. Thank you.